Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Strompcast episode 240. We're very excited to have you here today. Another fantastic episode, hopefully, on the way. If you're joining us on Twitter, make sure you follow us and hit that retweet button to spread the word. For YouTube viewers, make sure you hit subscribe and hit the notification bell as well. And for all other podcast platforms, just follow us. And yeah, but other than that, we've got a very good episode for you today. But first, let me introduce the special guest, and that is Albert from Longboard Football. How are you doing today, man?
I'm great, man. It's always good to be introduced as a special guest. Pleasure, as always, to come on the show. You guys know I love you guys and what you do. So always a pleasure. Very happy to be here.
Yeah, if you're unfamiliar with Longboard, make sure you give them a follow at the bottom left there at Longboard Football. If you want to follow Albert specifically, you can follow him there as well. But of course, we are joined by our usual suspects as well. First off, Danny, man, how you doing today?
Doing good, doing great. A big win to talk about shortly. A big transfer window to talk about shortly. Our two rivals are almost in shambles, one more than the other. Life is good. Football starts tomorrow. Life is good. Can't complain.
Yeah, no, I just realized as well, as we were talking before about what we're going to talk about, Champions League draw as well. Completely forgot about that. That happened.
True.
We did well on our Champions League predictions, actually. Now that, like in retrospect, we had a lot of those teams. As my dog is probably going crazy in the background. You can't really hear it, maybe. I don't know.
The dog's just a sporting Easter, man. He's ready for it.
It's a she, but she's ready. She's always game.
Cool. And Richard, how you doing today, man?
I'm good. Yeah, a huge win. It was a close game. Like, it wasn't a very super controversial Classico, no real big controversies or causes that we normally find in these games, which was nice. A nice change of pace. We avenged a super Tassa, which is good, and the Tassa as well, I guess, by virtue. Yeah, we've got a lot to talk about. We've got this game. We'll definitely touch, I assume, on the Benfica news. We got a little bit of Seleção talk as well. Some interesting names and news and notes coming out of the call-ups and the initial press conferences that I think we can touch on. But yeah, I'm ready to go.
Yeah, but before we get into that, make sure you follow all things Alvalade on all social media platforms and podcast platforms. But yeah, let's just get straight into it, I suppose. And we will go to the game against Porto, which was a 2-0 win. Lineup is as followed: Kovacevic in goal, Gonzalo Inacio, Diamonde, Eduardo Quaresma, Giovanni, Jenny, Morita, Hillman, Pedro Gonçalves, Gyökeres, and Trincao. Off the bench came the Bast, Mateus Reis, Bragança, and Nuno Santos. Albert, as you're the guest, what are your overall thoughts on this game?
Great game. Really, really entertaining to watch as a neutral. I thought it was really the build up to the game was really interesting because obviously we had the almost dress rehearsal of this match just a few weeks ago, right, with the Super Tassa. So that was a really interesting comparison. Obviously, the story of that game was very different. Sporting did really well, flew out the traps at 3-0 after 30 minutes, and then let it all go. So that was an interesting game, and it was kind of interesting to speculate what kind of game we'd see at the weekend. I definitely thought it was going to be different, a different story. I didn't think we'd see the same Sporting in at the weekend, and I think we saw Sporting honestly at almost the best that I think you guys can be in many ways, because it was a really, really impressive performance. It was impressive in that it was so dominant. I mean, people like different stats. I mean, if you just look at the stat on screen, compared to XG, it's just like it tells you a real story of just how much Sporting controlled the game. Again, I'm always trying to be impartial and be neutral, but I think you also have to be fair. And I think my honest assessment of the game is that basically, I think Porto were hanging on in the game. I don't think they really had an opportunity to stamp their authority on the game, to really show what they can do, and that's all credit to Sporting, who I think dominated the game from minute one to the end.
We didn't pay you to say that, by the way, just as a disclaimer. That is your own opinion.
It honestly is, and I was really impressed, as I have been with Sporting every game this season, other than the second half of the Supertass. I've been really, really impressed with how you guys have played every game. I mean, at the end of the last season, we were kind of, neutrals anyway, we're kind of all sitting around thinking, where's Gyökeres going to go? Where's Ruben Amorim going to end up? What's Sporting going to look like at the start of next season? Well, we're here. The window's closed, and Gyökeres looks as good as he's ever been. Amarim's still at the club. He still seems motivated and happy to be there. The squad looks fantastic. There's young players, there's fresh faces. Obviously, lost one or two names in the summer, but ultimately, squad's in a really good place. And you guys look like you're ready to deliver everything you did last season, and maybe even a little bit more. So very, very positive signs. And yeah, just to reiterate, this game specifically, one of the most impressive performances that I've seen from Sporting pretty much since Amarim's been in charge. I don't know whether that's going overboard, but like I said, it was just very dominant against a Porto team who have also done really well this season. You know, they won that Supertaça, and they haven't. You know, this was their first tough game in the league, but they've also played really well against the smaller teams that they've played in the first 3 games, and they've also had new players come in and look really good. So this wasn't an easy game by any means, but it was made to look very easy. So very impressed.
Yeah, the thing with Porto at the moment, especially coming from this game, they've made a few signings off the back of this game and deadline day. When I look at their team, and I mean, no disrespect to these players at all, but like Zé Pedro, Otavio, even Danny Namasso, I just don't know if they're Porto quality in terms of starting. I think they could be good bench players, but Samu came on for his debut. They've got Fabio Vieira back on loan, Tego Jalot and Perez have come in. So it'll be interesting to see if Porto do improve and kick on, and what that reverse fixture will be in a few months' time. But Richard, what were your overall thoughts on this game?
A lot similar to Albert's, honestly. Like, yeah, Sporting was very much in control for long stretches of this game. I was expecting it to be much more hotly contested from Porto. Maybe it's because they don't have Sergio Conceição to just, I guess, rile up the troops as we're kind of used to. Maybe that's a bit of a factor. I mean, Porto had some shots, but there was nothing really troubling. Like, I know Kovacevic is somehow a 5.4, but they had a couple shots. He was fine when called upon, but they didn't really do anything overly dangerous at any given points during the game. Even like the Sporting goal, you could kind of feel it coming. It's a silly penalty from Porto to give away. They foul Jokeres right in the box, stonewall. The ref barely had to even look at it. He makes a 1-0. He was phenomenal this game, as he always has been. I thought Pot was really good. What can we say about Giovanni Kenda? Like 17 years old, called up to the national team this week, and they've thrown him to the wolves, and he is absolutely incredible. He's probably been one of their best players all season.
How mature he is.
He doesn't carry himself like a 17-year-old. He carries himself like someone who's been playing at this level for at least a few years, which is incredible. So you wonder if he's like this now, and if all things go well, where is he going to be in 2 years' time, in 3 years' time, once he gets more experience? Like, we'll probably see him at the next World Cup. What's that going to do for him? Like, just a really exciting player to have. And like we talked about, we're talking kind of about him the same way a lot of people talked about, I would say, like João Neves last year, where he kind of just burst out of nowhere and he was just so impressive so quickly. And he's kind of a comparable in that sense. I was really happy with him. Wonderful goal from Jenny, really good build-up play to kind of seal the game. The game was kind of you felt it was already done anyways, even though it was just 1-0. Because even though Porto had no choice to come forward, they still didn't do much, in my opinion, being down the goal. So it just kind of felt like inevitable once they made it 1-0. That was kind of be it. No real other standouts for me this game. Like, none of the substitutes for me made much of an impact for Sporting. I will say the defense, again, very solid game. Wonderful to see Quaresma, Diamante, and Ignacio have, I would say, their second or third really strong game in a row. No real complaints, no notes. It's a comfortable 2-0 win. Scoreline probably flatters Porto a little bit, not too much. Probably could have been maybe 3, but I'm not going to complain. It's a big win from Sporting because it puts them 3 points ahead of Porto now. Benfica having dropped points on the Friday. I was literally getting home from work as that game was happening, and I was like, "Oh, they're losing," and then they tied. I was like, "Oh, they're gonna win this," and then they didn't. So I was quite happy. But it's important to get these points early and collect them fast because things can change in a hurry. So you build a lead up, and you just try to maintain it. The further you go with the lead, the more chance you have to win, right? So about as good a start for Sporting this season as they could hope for. Let's hope they can keep the momentum going. They don't really have any majorly tough games coming up in domestically anyways. They obviously have a pretty tricky Champions League draw, as does Benfica. Benfica had a really harsh draw, which we'll get into as well, I imagine. But no real notes for this game other than that. I'll give my man of the match probably to Jenny, just to be a bit different, because I feel like we always say Jokeres or Pot or one of the flashy players. I want to give to Jenny just to be a bit different and give him his props, because he's been very good this season. We weren't sure where he would stand. He's playing on his offside too, actually, as well. He was playing on the right side of the pitch last season. They've moved him to the left, and he's not missed a beat.
Yeah, considering that he wasn't even really supposed to be here after, a few failed loan spells and then scoring goals against Porto, against Benfica. I remember even when he came on, I think against Atalanta in the Europa League, and he was like one of the best players on the pitch. Like from where he was supposed to be to where he is now, I don't think anyone could have guessed how important he would be to the team. But yeah, Danny, what are your overall thoughts on this game?
Yeah. I mean, nothing too different from both of you. The only thing is I remember watching this game, and there was points where I thought maybe Porto was going to steal like a point, even all 3 points. There was a moment in there, I think in and around just before like the 60th minute, like Porto, we were making, again, a lot of mistakes on the back line, and Porto had a few chances on that. I think there was a big save from Kovacevic on one of those opportunities, but I was getting worried because the goal wasn't coming, and we were knocking on the door. We were controlling the game. That's one thing that I loved about this game more so than the Supertaça. With Supertaça, we were up 3-0 and we didn't control the game as much as we did this game, So I love the control. But yeah, there was points where I thought we weren't gonna leave with 3 points in this game. Gyökeres got I think it was Alan Varela. He cleared it off the line. Gyökeres almost got a toe poke in just before then. But overall, man, we played really well, and we really shut out Porto, who, like we said, although they didn't play anybody that great, we also haven't played anybody that great. We played like Nacional, Rio Ave, and Porto have been, strumming along, and they're only going to get better now too with some of the signings that they got in too. So, yeah, credit to this game. We look like the most stable club. It's so shitty to say it in September though, but we look like the most stable club moving forward.
We're just not used to it. That's why. We're not used to the feeling.
Maybe you're onto something. Yeah, probably. I'm not yet, but yeah, with Schmidt gone, with Porto losing this game, although Porto still look good, we look like we're the most serious candidates here, at least so far. But Porto look good at least as well too. So that's why this is such a big game, but or a big win, I should say. Only other thing to mention was Trincão, at least online, got a lot of shtick. I don't think he was all that bad. He was finding himself in the right area, but Trincão being Trincão, or maybe it's a Sporting thing, like you get in your right area, but you can't finish. There's a few good blocks in there. But yeah, and like Richard said, Jenny is on the left side right now, but still looked good, especially in this game. And then once you see him on the right, and he's able to cut in on his left foot, he's killer, man. He's clutch. I love Jenny. I hope we don't lose Jenny anytime soon. Kenda battling with Jenny on the right side is going to be interesting because Nuno Santos and the Uruguayan, I'm forgetting his last name now. He's going to be
Maxi Araujo.
They're going to be battling out on the left. The Bass came in, and I thought the Bass was about to have a disaster class again. But, things kind of...
I know exactly which moment you're talking about. The one that was like 2 minutes.
It was the first moment on the ball. It was horrendous. But after that, things kind of calmed down, and he was all right. And yeah, and to Albert's point too, and we'll get into transfers in just a bit. I think Sporting's biggest thing was how many players we didn't lose. Although we lost Coach, and I'm gonna die on this hill. Coach is gonna be a big loss. We're gonna miss him at points, and I'll bring it up at points that we lost such a big figure in the defense, and even Paulinho, we lost some experience up top, but we kept Inácio, we kept Diomande, we kept Gyökeres, Morita, Human. I know we just made him captain, but Morita, Human are huge keeps as well. Pot, of course.
They kept like 90% of the core of that team together, which is a huge thing. Like consistency is a huge thing in this league. Like we've seen with Porto, kind of the turnover they've had year over year, and like Benfica to a lesser extent sometimes too, consistency matters when you're trying to build a team and you're trying to build something like a foundation for something in the future. I think the fact that they really didn't lose anybody, I shouldn't say not anybody major, but they didn't lose a lot of players, maybe one or two, but they had players who could also step up in those positions. I think that was a big thing. That goes a long way.
And more importantly, we kept Amorim. I think that's huge for us too. We kept Amorim. He didn't go to Liverpool. He didn't go elsewhere.
Yes.
Shockingly. So we look good. We'll see what happens now. The international break came on the wrong time, I'd say.
The September one it is kind of weird, right? Like I would prefer if we just extended the October one to have like an extra game. Personally.
It's good and bad. It depends on like for Benfica, this is perfect timing. For Porto, even at the same time, this is a good time to lose his international break. For us right now, it's horrible because we're on fire right now. So to take that break, now come back.
Well, we're
gonna go into predictions. Let me already say 1-0, 2-0 max. Like,
we have 4 players going to the national team, which we'll touch on in a bit too, which is the most we've had in like forever.
Yeah, but it's friendlies, right? Or Nations Cup?
Nations League.
Glorified friendlies.
Friendlies. It's like I treat the Nations League like the toss of the Liga.
Exactly.
You don't really care until you're like, we actually have a chance to win this.
Facts.
Let's go. Like, that's how I feel about it.
Facts.
Richard, if you had the option between Taça da Liga or Nations League, you have to pick one or the other. What are you picking?
Ooh.
It's bro. It's not even a Richard. It's not a debate.
Everyone's saying the thing is, Taça da Liga is just 8 teams now, so it's not even fun. At least Nations League, you got to go through some teams. Like Nations League, like they still got to play like Croatia. They got to play like Scotland. They got to play some tough teams.
Low-key, I think I'd like Taça da Liga more than the Champions League, to be quite honest.
Get out.
It's our cup, you know. Like
you're the type of guy who says, no, I'd rather win a Taça Portugal than a Europa League.
I'd rather win a Cinco Violinos than a Europa League, bro.
Get out of here. Leave.
Not to spend too much more time in this game, but I'm going to be a bit negative in a sense that I think Amorim again waiting to the 80th minute to make a sub.
Facts.
Yeah, he does wait a long time to make subs often, I find.
And I know it worked in our favor, we scored again, but it's just, I think there was a lot of players who were, huffing, were tired. I think Giovanni maybe could have come a bit earlier. I wasn't too impressed with Eduardo Quaresma. I thought this probably was his weakest game in a while.
I thought you were going to say Morita, because I'm with you as well.
Morita, I thought in the first half, but then in the second half, I thought he kicked on and was all right defensively. Maybe not offensively, but I thought on the defensive side, he was very good. One player I am really impressed with, though, was Diomande. And the fact he has the same rank as Zef Pedro, again, no disrespect, I thought this was Diamande's best game in a while. He was a leader, winning all the balls, great long balls as well, just absolutely fantastic. No pun intended there, Albert, of course. A great player and a great performance from him. The sub thing really does annoy me because I think, it's going to be a long season. And if he keeps doing this, and it did backfire in the Super Cup, obviously it worked this time. But I think, around that 60th, even 70th minute makes up. We shouldn't wait till 10 minutes to go to the end of the game. And even like bringing Nuno Santos in for the last 3 minutes, like, was there much point? Was it just, go out for a run for a bit?
That's a pure time. That's a pure, we're trying to kill some time substitution. Like we see that all the time.
Yeah, and like I said, it worked out because Jenny scores in the 93rd minute, but I just wish it was a little bit earlier. And to your point, Danny, when you said you thought Porto were going to score, before the Jenny goal was actually a free kick to Porto on the edge of the box, and I left the room because I was like, I know what's going to happen. They're going to score. That Samu is massive. I was like, he's going to win a header.
He is a tall person. That was my concern on that set play specifically. Yes.
And they also brought in Fran Navarro, who's decent in the air as well. They've got some tall players there. So I was like, it's going to come. And then, gone the counter-attack and Jenny scores. So it was all good. And Gyökeres, man, there's just so many words to say about him. I thought he maybe struggled a bit for the first maybe 45 minutes. I thought Otavio did pretty well in some cases. And then as soon as he went past him on that play, I was like, is that going to be a goal? It's a foul. And Otavio, I did like Otavio at Famalicão. He does have the sort of, aggressiveness that I like, but maybe a bit too much of an ego for the player he is. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but
I like him. I personally like him. I think he's a good defender. I hear you though, but I think he's a good defender. He's good for Porto's quality, especially.
I think so, but I think he rubbed Porto fans the wrong way, especially after that game. I feel maybe he's just a bit off, but they signed 2 new centre backs, so I assume
Porto
that Pedro
fans known for
Otavio
being calm, cool, and collected. Might we add?
also true.
I'm low-key heartbroken they signed late. I'm not gonna lie. Not late. Jallo, excuse me.
Jallo, yeah.
I'm a
I
little
was very sad
heartbroken
about that. That could have been us.
Because he's good, man. And he's Sporting Academy, but he's good, man.
I know.
Yeah.
It stinks.
Yeah.
But other than that, yeah, like Danny said, when the Bass came on, worried, but then he came on, was fantastic. I thought, although like I said, 10-minute stretch, 30-minute stretch, I thought he was very good and was very calm when he came on. But yeah, Trincao, I'm torn 50-50. I feel like he should have definitely had 2 before the half. There was one which Zepedro blocked off the line, which I thought, Zepedro, to his credit, got on pretty much, like the Phil Jones, like getting in the way of the ball, like with his head. Like he risked life and limb for that. So fair play to Zepedro.
It was just a get in front of the ball by any means necessary type of play.
Yeah, and it was very good to be fair. But then the second one where it's just, has the ball, we have to hit it on target pretty much as his goal, and he puts it wide. I just, if that's anyone else, if that's Yokos or Pedro Gonzalez, that's a goal 9 times out of 10. Maybe not Edwards or Trincao, but, it is what it is. But yeah, Richard gave his man of the match to Jenny. Also, just before I give mine, Kovacevic was very good in this game as well. Not too good distribution-wise, but in terms of shot stopping, I think it was Galeno's signature shot from outside the box, which you've seen go in, was a great save. And I think he's getting better each game, hopefully, and getting more confidence, which is a good sign. But I'm going to give my man of the match. I thought Diomande was fantastic. Albert, who do you think your man of the match was?
Well, I was just about to say, to try and give it to someone different, I'll give it to Diomande, but you just done that for me. So, I mean, honestly, I think I would probably still stick with Diomande. I think he was really good in this game, and I think as a player, he's had to take on a lot this season with Quats leaving, because I think positionally playing in the centre of the back 3 works for him better than playing on the side, but he doesn't have the experience that Quats has. He doesn't have necessarily that natural leadership, especially not in his first language. I don't think he's a native Portuguese speaker, so to have that responsibility at the centre of defence is a lot. And he's such a young player, but I really love that guy. I think he's got great natural ability, great defensively, great physically. He hasn't always been perfect, but I think I've got a good feeling that this season we'll see him continue to grow into that role and take on more responsibility in the team. And I think this game was the perfect example of us seeing that.
Yeah, I do think as well it was a question of if the Bast was going to take Diomande's place or Quaresma's place. So it's, again, a good headache to have for now. I can maybe see the Bast taking Quaresma's role at the moment. Not say that, one bad game and switch out Quaresma, but I think that would probably be the plan. But I don't know.
I also
Danny?
think the Bast is better out wide than he is in the middle. In the middle, he's kind of he's too shaky to be in the middle, I think.
One of the things that did worry us when we started the season preview, we all said that our defense is a bit too young, and I think that is the case. And I think that's the
case.
It's going to involve a lot more lapses of concentration throughout the season, but that's how you gain experience from playing. So as long as they keep playing like the Bast and playing alongside Diomande and Inacio, I guess we'll see. But yeah, Danny, who is your man of the match?
Sorry, really quick. Even on that point, so long as we control the game and have the ball at our feet, we'll be fine. But yeah, it's crazy to think our oldest defenders are like St. Just and Mateus Reis. So I think
our oldest player is Ricardo Esgaio at 31.
Who didn't go to Braga, shockingly. I thought he was going to go there.
Yeah, the deal fell through apparently, or whatever it was. Crazy.
My man of the match, just to be different. I'm honestly, I was going to say Diomande as well. I'm not going to lie to you guys. And it's crazy to see. I mean, on the Diomande part as well, he came from Mafra and Midtjylland just before then as well. Crazy. But I'll be different. I don't know if I want to go with Pot or Gyökeres, because although Gyökeres only scored a penalty, he was a headache. And he continues to just be a headache. Yeah, I think I talked myself into Gyökeres. Oh, such a headache. I love him.
Yeah, it's real hard giving Victor Gyökeres a man of the match.
But it's super hard because listen, last year I don't think I ever gave him one because I always wanted to be different. I'm pretty sure I picked last year Ishgayu over Gyökeres. So since you guys didn't pick him, I'll pick him.
That's because you still need to write an apology letter, I think.
Yeah, we're still
what,
waiting
Yo,
on
I
your
thought you guys forgot
apology,
about
brother.
that, bro. Yo,
No,
listen,
we
I'm
never.
happy to
Elephants
be
never
wrong.
forget.
I'm happy to be wrong. I think now it's too late for an apology letter.
No, it's never too late.
Yeah? Okay. Drop
Never
it
too
tonight.
late. Take
Yeah,
it from a
but-
stubborn. Take it from a
I'm gonna-
stubborn Canadian man. It's never
I'm
too
gonna
late to say
AI
sorry.
that shit though.
Chat GTP just
Yeah,
put it out there.
exactly.
But cool. Before we move on, I actually did have a question for you, Albert, as being, you know, the most level-headed one here and the least biased.
Whoa.
Sorry, guys.
Bro, me.
No,
What
it's,
do you
he's
mean?
right. He's right.
I'm the
It will
only.
make
Actually,
sense.
I was gonna say I'm the only one not wearing a sporting shirt.
I came with
No,
the
Richard got you.
Sal
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
But yeah, it will make sense once I ask this question. But obviously, Gyökeres has been very good and one of the best Portugal players in Portugal we've seen in a while. Where do you rank him in terms of the top strikers ever to play in Portugal? Is he a level behind? People say Falcao is the best, and you know I love Falcao, even though he's a Porto player. But is Gyökeres catching Falcao just based
who's
in
the
time in
top,
Portugal,
Sam?
of course?
Who would you say is the top? Because I would say Falcao. I'd say Jonas would be up there.
Jackson.
Yeah.
No,
Jackson
Jackson's better than
Martinez.
Jonas.
I personally don't think Jonas is up there. I think Oscar Cardozo is up there instead of
Cardozo's
Jonas.
up there for
Those
sure.
would be up there. Yeah.
Jackson Martinez, Bas Dost, maybe you could argue for just in terms of goal
Yeah.
scoring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I'm
trying to think who else was a striker. Well, Hulk was a striker. No, Hulk was.
It was like
Pretty
a
much.
He's
cheaper
a
winger.
winger. He's a winger.
Okay. Yeah. Then we'll
But
leave
yeah.
that.
Oh, if I were to give you maybe top three, is Gyökeres
Oh.
going in your top three at the moment, or is he number two? Is he number three? What would you
Albert,
say?
Good luck, brother.
He goes into the top three for sure,
Wow.
definitely. Yeah.
But he's three.
For me, no. I mean,
Okay.
not necessarily. I think people definitely hold up Falcao as the like. I guess within living memory for most people, you know, on this podcast and watching, Falcao's kind of held up as the number one. I would probably agree with that. I think that the only thing holding Gyökeres back from Falcao is Falcao played in a different time. You know, he was competing for the Champions League title, which is just not something that Portuguese clubs really do anymore. So from that sense, it's kind of hard to compare because Gyökeres just doesn't have the luxury of being able to say he was playing at that level. But if you're talking about purely in terms of the player's ability, listen, I'm aware that people can clip up this show and it may come back to haunt me, so I've got to be careful what I say. I think it's a strange one because it almost depends on where his career goes after Sporting. Because if he does go on to perhaps, hypothetically, to win a Premier League with a club like Arsenal and be a Premier League top scorer, then I think you look at him as definitely one of the best strikers to play in Portugal. He's definitely the best player I've seen in a long time. He's better than Luis Diaz. He's better than Darwin Núñez.
Yeah, better than
And
Darwin.
you know those kind of guys. So it's I'm genuinely not trying to avoid the question. I really don't.
No,
I don't really care about avoiding. I don't really care about avoiding questions. I'll say stupid shit online. I don't care.
That's why
it's hard.
Leave out, by the way, is we left out Jardel like a bunch of idiots.
No.
Not
So
in
I was
general.
gonna say to Albert's. Let me also I think Gyökeres is like starting off this decade as like easily the best striker that's passed by Portugal, right?
Yeah.
Whereas like if you look 10 years in the past, like maybe nostalgia gets to you a bit.
Yeah.
We have Falcao, we have Martinez, we have Oscar, we have Bas Dost, things like that. But I hear you, Albert. I hear you.
Yeah, I can't say. Excuse me. I can't definitively say that he's better than Falcao, but I would. Yeah, I mean, I said the first thing you asked me, I'd put him in my
Top three
top
is
three.
crazy. Personally, top three is crazy.
I would. I don't see why. I don't see why not. But then again, maybe he's playing. It does depend on what he does in the future as well, because we can judge Falcao's whole career, and we all know what Falcao went on to do his whole career. Maybe if he'd peaked at Porto and never got better, we wouldn't be having the same conversations, because you know we look back at this legendary player of football that started in Portugal. So from that sense, we do have to wait. But in terms of ability, he's definitely one of the best players of the last 10, 15 years in Portugal for me.
Yeah, the reason I asked that question is because it was a debate I was having, and of course I was being biased and putting Gyökeres number one. And here is the reason for it.
That's crazy.
I like
Hear
that.
me out, as they say in Filthy Fellas. Let me land.
I'll let you
right?
land.
If you put
Glorious
Gyökeres in a team with prime Hulk, prime James Rodriguez, even like the prime Lucho Gonzalez,
Prime
you've got-
James?
Prime
Okay.
James?
Wait, is
Jeez
James?
Louise.
well, not prime
Was James
James, but
in the
like-
World Cup during Porto or Monaco?
Monaco.
I think. Okay,
Those
fair, but
Monaco
fair,
days.
fair. It's right after.
At
Okay,
least
fair.
a prime Jean Moutinho as well. I think he hit his prime at Porto instead of Monaco, personally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fair.
If you put
That's
Gyökeres
fair.
in that team, I don't think he might not
I hear
outscore
you.
Falcao, but are they having similar impacts?
I
I
hear
think
you.
Their stats are going
I
to
hear
be
you.
really close. Yeah, I think in total.
And if you put Falcao in this team, I don't know if it's the same, personally.
I don't know, but I'd love to
Falcao
find. I'd love to see Falcao on this team personally if I could.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just
And-
wondering where you guys are putting Ricky Van Wolfswinkel in that conversation.
Not our
You know, I
number
thought
one.
of him when I was mentioning all the strikers. I was like, do I mention Ricky? Do I mention Liassen?
No,
Like, is
you
that
don't.
too much in the past?
I love Van Wolfswinkel, but no, this is like the putting Van Wolfswinkel in this conversation would be like the polar bear in Arlington, Texas meme. Like,
No,
it's
but low key,
well out of
Van
place.
Wolfswinkel's still doing things though, right? Even right now to
He
this
still
day.
has to score him. Yeah.
Still, some respect on my guy's
He
name.
is.
You know what?
Yeah.
You better than. Never mind.
Still down. Still down.
The thing is with Van Wolfswinkel, we were at a time for a while we didn't have any good strikers. We had like Bojanov and then like
Yeah.
Postiga and all these guys. Then
Yeah.
Van Wolfswinkel came in, and then after that we had Slimani, we had Montero, Bastos, Gyökeres, etc. So
I'll
In terms
say
of
the
those
the
guys-
first year of Postiga was fine, was good. Everything after that was forgettable, but the first year of Postiga was fun.
fun is a strong word.
They had a good team. They had a good team. They just got that was the Lucilio Baptista Toss Liga. That was the Bayern 13-1 thrashing. It was just a season that was like it was so promising.
And
up
that was
until, like,
fun
January.
to you?
It was
13
so it
on
was
is fun.
it was so promising until like the end of January, and then it all just slowly fell apart. But that team was fun for the first half of the season.
Guys, really quick, since we're on this, Nino asks if we remove Gyökeres from the equation, what happens?
Oh,
Is there much of a difference here?
Remove
I think
Gyökeres
there
in
is.
what aspect though? Is in like
Like,
removing from
like
the
let's say we sold
conversation?
Gyökeres to Arsenal this season. Are
Oh,
we
we're
still
getting
firing on all cylinders?
No, I think we're
You
getting
think we're getting cooked?
I don't know because they
I mean,
they
yeah.
really a lot of their bets on the Greek striker Ioannidis, and they gave up. They gave up a lot later than I would have given up personally. I don't know if they land him and he proves to be maybe not necessarily a like for like replacement for Gyökeres, but a comparable player who can kind of bully his way around defenders and kind of take control of the game, maybe. But I think they even then like it's a tough guy to replace. I think if they don't have a Gyökeres heading into this season, heading into the competitive games of this season, this team looks drastically different.
Yeah.
Can I add on? Can I comment on that as well? Because that's actually a really good question. And it's one when you actually start to think about it. The thing about Victor Gyökeres is that he offers you. I mean, we talk about the numbers, right? We always talk about numbers when it comes to Gyökeres. Oh, how many goals and assists, like goal contributions has he had in per minute or whatever it is. It's always some crazy stat. He's much more than just about numbers, though. It's about the way that he plays and the fact that as an individual on the pitch, he offers so much more than goal scoring. Like so much of the way that the team plays goes through him. Like the way that he is able to, like his movement and physicality, and the way he dribbles with the ball. Like he runs with the ball a lot. He's not standing in a 6-yard box waiting for tap-ins and headers. Like
He's not
he's such
Vasdos.
well, yeah, exactly.
That's what I
exactly,
heard,
exactly
too.
that. He's a combination of so many players. I think for that reason, it's like it's all well and good to sell Victor Gyökeres. It's fine to sell Victor Gyökeres for 80 million euros or 90 million or whatever it might be, but then you have to spend that money to get him back, basically, because there's very few players out there proven that will do that. And you can bring in a player that your scouting department has told you offers you similar attributes, and they show you the metrics and say, oh, well, this player does X, Y, and Z. But then there's no guarantees that player is going to. Well, exactly. There's no guarantees that player is going to finish in the same way, or he's going to have all the 10 out of 10 attributes that Gyökeres has. They might have 7 or 8, but it's not just about losing numbers in terms of goals, because I feel like you could probably find someone who's an equally good finisher. It's about finding just the complete player, and I think that's what makes him so good. It's that completeness, and that he's able to offer you things that you'd probably have to sign 2 players minimum to replace in the starting 11.
Yeah. The thing is with that as well, I'm not going to lie and say losing Gyökeres wouldn't be a factor. I do think if we lost Gyökeres, then we struggled to win the league last year, definitely, because we're left with, as much as I love him, Paulinho is not a great starting striker, as we've now found out. Maybe in Portugal, at least. He's killing it in Mexico, to be fair to him. But people have said in the past, and we've been a part of this podcast for, nearly 8-9 years. When Bruno Fernandes left, and everyone said, Sporting are never going to come close to the title again, they're never going to get Europe again, blah, blah, blah. And then, 2 years later, we win the league. Is it just going to be the same case as, Gyökeres is going to leave, Sporting are never going to win the league title again? 2 or 3 years and it happens. I don't know. But yeah, obviously without Gyökeres, we'd be much weaker and the title race would be a lot closer, especially considering I don't know if we bring Harder in as the starting striker if we sold Gyökeres. I don't know if we look for Unidis or someone else. Yeah. But yeah, if we lost Gyökeres, panic stations definitely.
Yeah, but you're right. Our system also does help him as well.
Yeah, facts. Before we get into prediction and stuff, we do have the Champions League calendar, which was drawn. What did you guys think of the overall format of the draw? Did you enjoy it? Because I actually thought it was pretty interesting.
It was kind of interesting. Yeah, it was different. I remember reading. I forget where it was. It might have been on The Athletic. Which, if you don't subscribe to The Athletic, you should. It's wonderful. We're not getting paid what they should pay us.
Subscribe to us first.
Subscribe to us first, and then The Athletic. But they mentioned how if they had done it like the old, like if they had done the new format, but like the old draw, it would have actually taken them like days to do the draw, or like something crazy. So them basically being, we're going to put all this stuff into a computer, saved a lot of time and headache. It was actually kind of made it fly by, because I find these things kind of drag on a bit. It's like, just pick up the balls and read the name. Like, that's all you need to do. So this was kind of...
I loved it, though. I'm not going to lie.
I didn't mind it, but after the first, like, 2 or 3 groups, it's like, can we just move along? Like, we don't need a speech for everything.
See, that Richard, was the problem. You're too young, bro. You're Gen X. Like, you're
27.
Span's fried, bro.
I'm 27, man. How old are you?
I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Did you watch like the Champions League draw with like, is it? Oh, what's that game? Subway Surfers underneath, like the TikTok.
Yeah, facts.
Yeah.
But no, one thing I found weird. I never expected Ronaldo to be at one of these panels as like the special guest.
Pushing a button? That's crazy.
I've never. Weird. You see, like, obviously,
can't believe they let it. Well, they're letting everybody. Why not let a YouTuber into the Champions League?
Facts.
But I just never expected to see someone of his caliber, like one of the best of all time, of course, be in there to press a button. Even like they even said, like, you're not in this competition anymore. We wish you were, like, but you're here to press a button. It's just like, okay, like, you do you. Fair enough.
Since you mentioned it though, now that Ronaldo's a YouTuber. Between us and long ball football, is there a chance we can get him on now?
Who knows, man?
He's in our realm.
Who knows? He's in the world. He's in our world.
I feel like he would only do the video podcast, because he spent so much time on the hair and the looks and everything.
He's got to make sure that like everything's being captured. Or he's in like his multi-million-dollar trophy room, and I'm here with like a used TV and a bookshelf from IKEA beside me, like I feel like a little bit like crap.
I will say we've not said the kindest things to Ronaldo, not about him, but about his football ability in the last 2-3 years. So it might be another Trevante Williams situation on our hands. That's where we get it and then it goes. But anyway, digressing to the Champions League calendar. So it was drawn. We have got Lille at home, PSV away, Sturm away, Man City and Arsenal back-to-back. At home, though, but still very difficult.
The 2 top teams at home.
Most definitely. Club Brugge away, Leipzig away, and Bologna at home. Albert, looking at this, how many points do you think Sporting should get from this Champions League draw?
Do you know what? Let me actually just do the maths in my head. I'll tell you exactly what I think. No, I think
5.
No. I'm thinking at least this is
24.
I don't want to sound like
Last
damning
four.
with faint praise. At least 3 wins.
Yeah.
So I think you got to be breaking 10 points. I think definitely. I mean, I was kind of torn on. I'm torn on this whole. You guys have probably discussed it already. Apologies, but this whole new format. I'm kind of torn on it because on the one hand, I know that it's just like a cynical way for the Champions League to get more games on TV, get more TV money, and make it less. Put less jeopardy on the top teams. I know that, but equally, I kind of like it. Like it's kind of cool.
It does open up the room for I think a bit more chaos though.
And
I
it's
think
just
that's
more.
why.
It's like it's just more different. It's more different games, which is
exactly.
kind of cool. And I think I quite like. I quite liked all the Portuguese teams groups actually in all of their competitions. I didn't. The one thing that we've avoided is like a group of death situation because there is no group of death anymore, which is what the whole system wanted to avoid. But from a perspective from like Portuguese teams, I feel like there is just like a better chance to progress because you look at this group here, you get a couple of, shall we call them, glamour ties with City and Arsenal, and those two you can kind of throw away the results. Doesn't really matter. Just it's pack out the stadiums, get some popcorn.
I mean, we beat Arsenal before.
We beat Arsenal.
Well, there is that.
And I called exactly.
Well, technically, we drew in 90 minutes twice. But...
a win's a win, baby. It's a win in my eyes.
Absolutely. But there's plenty of winnable games as well, man. I mean, I think there's a real possibility to progress. So, I'm kind of on board. I don't mind it at all. There's enough games to enjoy, and there's enough opportunities to get points. So let's go. Let's get it.
Yeah, definitely. As an avid football manager enjoyer, I do like the new format, and it is very good for us on FM. I don't know how it's going to work out because the more games to play, more travel and things like that. I don't know how that's going to affect fatigue and stuff. But I do believe the magic number of points to get into like the qualification stages, because there's obviously, if you finish I think top 8, you get a buy into round of 16.
Yeah, because there's no Europa League like drop off, and so it's basically you're stuck in Champions League, you're stuck in Europa League, which adds an extra layer to that. But
and
yeah,
I think
the top 8 goes through.
The rest of in 24 go to like a knockout round, which is technically qualifying the next round.
It'll be like how the Europa League and the Conference League operated the previous couple seasons, where there's like the initial round of 16, like playoff round, which is when they would get like the Champions League dropouts and then the Europa League dropouts to the Conference League and like the group runners up. So it's kind of the same thing, except there's no dropouts. Just places 9 to 24 will be drawn together in their respective matchups and then go on to the real round of 16, I suppose.
Yeah, one thing I did have issue with the draw is, what is the point of having pots if you play 2 from each? Like, surely you should just like, I don't know. I guess it makes a bit of sense so you don't play too many good teams.
I think it's just so you don't play too many teams. Like, you don't just have where it's like you have a team that draws like 8 of like 6 of the teams.
Yeah,
from the pot. I think it's just like this way you get like 2 of the top teams, 2 to 4 of like the medium teams. And then 2 of the, I don't want to call them small teams because that's really disrespectful, and they're not small teams, but I guess 2 of like the lower seeded teams in the competition. So it kind of makes sure that everyone's getting kind of equitable fixtures, I suppose.
Yeah, but back in my day, Richard, pot 1 used to mean something, and it doesn't mean anything.
Stop this utter woke nonsense. Go back to being pot 1.
Facts.
Make you look great again.
Yeah.
It's never great.
Make the Champions League champions again. That's what I wanted. Bring back the Cup Winners' Cup while we're at it. I missed that.
What are your points tally from this game, Richard? From the draw, Richard?
I think it's going to be over 10. I don't know that it will be too much over that. I think most of these games are winnable. Their 2 hardest games are at home. So I think if you can get a result from Man City and Arsenal specifically, I think that will go a long way. Even if it's just a draw from one or both, I think that goes a long way. I'll say they'll get 13, 14 points, and they'll probably progress in. It will probably be like the last day they'll either clinch or they'll be pretty much in, and it'll just be down to which place they kind of end up seated in the table. But I think they should be able to progress to the at least the playoff round. They've got a lot of winnable games. I think the trickiest games are the 2 at home. Lille's an interesting one. I think Lille's a team that's very much on their level. PSV will be on their level, and that will actually be one to watch because of the actual Portuguese coefficient in UEFA. We're chasing the Netherlands right now. So that's one to keep an eye on. Well, we should keep a little bit of an eye on the Dutch teams if you're interested in that kind of stuff. And I think maybe Leipzig away is the only other like really tricky one for me that sticks out. Sturm, we've played them already. We played them last year, so we're familiar with them. And I think they can absolutely. I think that's probably their most winnable game out of this because it's a team they already know. Bologna, I think they can get a win. I think Bruges, they should be able to get a result. I think the big ones are the two English giants. And we did predict as well. They're going to get at least one or two English teams. And we called Arsenal. We were pretty good on this draw. We predicted Lille. We called Arsenal.
I thought we called. I'm sorry. I called.
I think
PSV.
you called PSV. Yeah. I think we all called Lille. Or I know I called Lille. I think we all called Arsenal. Leipzig, I think you had maybe mentioned, Sam. And then Club Bruges, I think we had all kind of mentioned at least that was a possibility. So we didn't do too bad predictions-wise on this draw. We kind of got roughly what we were hoping / expecting, I suppose.
Yeah, facts. Danny, what about you? What are your points tally for this draw?
Yeah, I'm gonna stick. I think Irish Sam said this, and he said 15 points, easy. Emphasis on the easy. I don't know about all that actually, because now I think we'll make it a draw between either Lille or PSV. We might be one of them. Strompcast, I think we can beat. City, I don't know. They have kind of a bald manager, so I'm not sure he's that great. Arsenal, we can obviously beat them. Leipzig's going to be a tough away match as well. Bologna, I just checked. They're in the relegation zone. Man's lost everything. They lost Thiago Motta. They lost Sirski. So they lost, what's his name? Calafiori. So
yeah,
I think at least we're guaranteed 3 points at the end. I'm going to say a solid 12 to 15 points.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be mad at that.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I'm looking at this, and I think the first game is most important. If we can beat Lille and go with that momentum against PSV and then Sturm Graz, I think we can all just write off Man City as a loss.
As a win. Oh, my bad.
Oh, yeah.
I think
that's the first. I think that's going to be the first
smacking.
time in all things Alvalade predictions history where we all predict a Sporting loss.
Not me. 5-0 against City, bro. Gyökeres with a brace.
Yeah.
Let me also, Garrett. Let me stamp this right now.
Points.
Let me stamp this right. I don't know if we'll win or lose. Gyökeres is scoring against Arsenal, and then Arsenal Fan TV is making a whole episode on why they should have signed Gyökeres.
They can collab with us again if they want.
Calling it out.
Facts. I think if we beat Lille, then that gives us great momentum against PSV and Sturm Graz. I think Lille will be tougher than people think. I think hopefully PSV and Sturm Graz we get, I would say, a win. Then 2 losses in a row. Club Bruges did beat Porto.
I think we'll draw. I think we'll lose to City and we'll draw Arsenal.
Nah, the way Arsenal are playing this year is just
we're
another level.
We're beating Arsenal now.
Club Bruges did beat Porto, I think, last year, maybe the year before, and they looked quite good. So I'm not ready to rule them out as well. Leipzig, I don't know about Leipzig's home support. I don't know if it's the German level that we see like Dortmund or Bayern or Frankfurt. I don't know if it's to that.
As someone who watches enough Bundesliga, they're a good team and they do have a pretty good home support. Maybe not like a Dortmund or Bayern Munich or maybe even like a Bayer Leverkusen, but it's not going to be an easy away game.
Yeah,
like crowd wise.
They beat Leverkusen just this last weekend, who's now finally lost in the league after like a year and a bit. So
yeah. I would say I'd be happy with 9, but I feel like Amorim would say, look, we need to try and get 12, maybe 11, 10. But 9 I'll be happy with, and I think that might put us in the qualification spots anyway. But I think it's a decent draw all around. Some very good games in there. I think going to be evenly matched with some teams in there as well. That is it for the Champions League draw for Sporting. Before we get anywhere else, let me have a look at the predictions because obviously the game against Porto, I know Danny did pretty well in predictions. Let me get that.
Nobody did bad this week. Danny, you had a good week.
I think I remember like a 5-0 or something or a 4-0 or something.
It wasn't so much a scoreline; it was you had both goal scorers though, and we all only had one of the goal scorers.
Oh, let's go!
So you actually gained a point on me this week.
Oh, Jenny.
Yeah. Danny goes with the 4-1. Gyökeres, Pot, Jenny, and Morita gets Gyökeres and Jenny. Chris gets the win and Gyökeres. Richard gets the win and Gyökeres. I get the win and Gyökeres.
Me and Sam were
as
so
well.
close to the scorelines too. We're
Yeah.
agonizingly close.
But yeah, it was. I don't. To be fair, I did think we were gonna do well, and I did say like I thought we were gonna go in and play well, but I didn't expect that as well as we did. To be fair, but yeah, let's talk about something non-sporting related for a change. And I'm going to come to you. Benfica did in fact sack Roger Schmidt. All signs point to Bruno Lage as coming in as the replacement, which is a very strange one. I think even everyone is just like okay, like I guess. But what are your thoughts on Benfica season so far, the transfer window as well, and them appointing Bruno Lage?
Well, when Rui Costa did his press conference after announcing that they'd sacked Schmidt and said we were already in contact with the new manager, you knew it was going to be a shit choice at that point. So I'm not surprised. I think it was long overdue, Schmidt going. I think he should have gone a long time ago. It's a strange situation because he obviously did so well in his first season in charge. He came in to the league like an outsider and he bossed the league.
They were phenomenal.
And they were fantastic. And the narrative at that time was like, look at this guy who's going to come in and he's going to walk the league.
I remember they were great in Europe as well.
Yeah,
they were undefeated up until like post World Cup break, like in all comps, if I'm not mistaken. Like,
they had a really good season. Although because they were something like 12 points clear until the last 10 games of the season. Although perhaps maybe the writing was on the wall because the last 10 games of that season they did kind of take their foot off the gas. I think Porto brought it back to like 2 points, but they still won the league anyway. But since then it's been really poor. I think he probably should have gone before the end of last season when the fans really started turning. I mean, you guys remember all those scenes of the fans in, I think it was a game in the Algarve, and he was just getting dogs abuse from the stands in those games. It's a really interesting one because I was chatting about this to Kevin Fernandez on my podcast just yesterday about this, and we were talking about the one thing I was thinking about with Benfica is that they're not a team for a manager who wants to come in and call all the shots and say, I want to sign all these players and I want to do everything my way. That's not Benfica. At Benfica, as a manager, you have to understand that you're part of a bigger system and you're operating within different parameters, and you're going to have certain players that the administration tell you are coming in, and you're going to have certain players from the youth team that the administration tell you are priorities to bring through into the senior team. And in that aspect, Schmidt did well because he obviously, I mean, he's the guy who brought through João Neves, and that went really well. So credit to him for that. But I mean, it was just, you could just tell after that first season that things were going to go south because Roger Schmidt wanted his players, he wanted his signings. He wasn't always giving them. They did give him quite a few, to be fair. And he's such a stubborn manager. I mean, just look at the number of times he insisted on starting Frederick Alges on the left wing and João Mauro on the right wing, even though pretty much every single person watching those games could have told him that this looks fucking shit. Like your team looks bad and you're going to lose games. But he did it anyway because that's how he wanted to play. There was some. I mean, I think, you know, it might seem like a strange thing to point out, but one of the big things that went wrong was not replacing Gonçalo Ramos, which is funny because Gonçalo Ramos was not a player that Schmidt signed, but he was a player that was perfect for that system, and he was the guy who led from the front and pressed from the front, and they never replaced that. You know, Artur Cabral was never that guy, and whoever else they brought in was never going to do that, and they just lost. They didn't have the players to play Schmidt's system. They didn't ever quite bring in all the right ones, and he clearly lost the fans. He lost core players, and he never got them back, and Rui Costa obviously decided that it was time for him to go too late, in my opinion. In terms of the replacement, man, there were some bad choices, but Bruno Lage was probably one of the worst. I just don't get it. I think he will be a yes man, and I think that's what the administration want. That's what they want. I mean, Rui Costa, I thought would probably do something more stupid though, like go for a bigger famous name. Like Leonardo Jardim was the one I thought was going to come in, because I thought Rui Costa was he needed a big name basically to like win the next elections. He needed a big name to appease the fans. I don't think any of those choices were right. I think what they needed was a balance. They needed someone a bit fresher, a bit younger, to come in and who has like the tactical ideas and in the modern game could set the team up to win, but also kind of be young enough that they are adaptable and they would work with different types of players and they would work with what they were given. I mean, maybe I'm stupid, but I probably would have gone for a younger name from Portugal, if I'm being honest. I just don't think that was ever going to be an option for Benfica, because I don't think the owner would ever considered it with the elections and all that kind of stuff. And if I'm being honest, I don't think the fans would have accepted it. Like, I don't think Benfica fans are ready to do anything other than accept a big name, and that's kind of how it is. So we are where we are. I think, for what it's worth, Bruno Lage will probably be fine. Like, I think he'll be happy to work with the players that he's got, and obviously he'll be happy to work with the young players, and that helps. But they've got themselves into quite a bad situation. And the thing I always think about with Benfica is that surely it's actually harder for them to underachieve than it is for them to achieve, because they've got so many resources that are able to them. I always just think, I mean, this is my naivety, but surely it would just be easier for them to just spend all their money on good players and win the league. But clearly it's not that easy, and they've really struggled. And I don't think this is a quick fix. Like, I don't think this situation changes with Bruno Lage coming in very quickly. I could be wrong. That's where I'm at with it. I think it's gotten very messy, and I don't think the solution is around the corner.
Yeah, there are a few more questions I want to ask you about it. One of them was just asked for me. Sergio Conceição, do you think there was ever a chance of that happening?
I would have loved it. Can I tell you how much I would have loved it? Oh my God. Can you imagine the next Classico?
The content would have fed families for generations.
100%. 100%. Like, it would have brought eyes onto this league. It would have been box office. It would have been like blockbuster stuff. Alas, he'll probably just end up at, I don't know, fucking Liga or something.
It would have made Jesus coming from Benfica to Sporting look like nothing happened.
Literally.
It would have been insane.
Literally, yeah. But yes, but sadly, it's not going to happen. I mean, very sadly, we probably won't see Conceição back in the league, possibly ever again, which to me is a sad prospect. I don't know. You guys probably don't.
He's gonna replace Amorim, Albert. What if I told you that?
That's going from Amorim
like
to Sergio Conceição.
That is
like
that
most
is
insane switch.
Guarantee
Like,
two
ends of the perspective.
But yeah, there's two more questions I want to ask you about it. And for me, I think the biggest mistake Rui Costa made was not firing after the 5-0 loss to Porto. I think the writing was
probably
100%.
I think the next best time would have just been finish out last season and then be done with it. And just start anew.
Yeah, and I think with Bruno Lage, just when has hiring a manager you've sacked sort of ever worked before? And it also just leaves that room for doubt for Bruno Lage. Like, okay, I've been sacked before, I get sacked again. Like, for him, what's the worst that could happen? He probably ends up at like Olympiacos in 2 years' time, or
talk to Carlos Carvalhal in Braga, I guess.
Yeah. But my last question on it, Albert, was do you think it's Roger Schmidt's more to blame? Do you think Rui Costa is also to blame? There's been a lot of chat from Benfica fans saying he sold players too cheaply. João Neves is still one of the best younger midfielders. Had a release because I think of 100, if not 120, and they sold him for what? I think 60 or 70 in Renato Sanchez or something like that. Do you think it's a 50-50 split? Do you think Rui Costa is actually more to blame than Schmidt? What do you think?
I think specifically on João, I won't take too much time on this because it's not Benfica point. Specifically on João Neves, my opinion is actually that the price wasn't too bad. I think it's really important for people to not underestimate how different the football transfer market is this summer compared to even 1 year ago. Like, things change so fast in football. That 120 million euro deal for João Neves was never coming, ever, from anyone. So that was, I think the 60 million, maybe it could have been like 75, something like that, but it is what it is. So from that perspective, I think that was fine. I think I do go more down the 50-50 route, purely because it kind of goes back to what I was saying before. When you have a manager like Roger Schmidt, to make it work, you have to go all in, and you have to say, we're going to back this guy 100% and we're going to follow what he does. And I think to Roger Schmidt's credit, he's shown that when that happens, he can deliver, not just in his first season at Benfica, but at PSV before that. That's what happened. Like, he built a team and they won things. I think the problem that he found at Benfica was, like I said, that strange 6 of one, half a dozen of the other situation where he had some of the players that he wanted, but then also he had players like Marcus Leonardo, who I don't think Roger Schmidt wanted ever. He's not a player that Roger Schmidt wanted, but Benfica brought him in because he's a exciting South American talent, and that's what they do. They bring in those exciting players from that market. They develop them and sell them on. That's like a established part of their business.
And they made double the money they spent on him.
That's
he's good though. I'm not mad at it. Yeah. He's good. It's a good deal. It's just
he's good,
but exactly that.
20 games and like half of them off the bench.
No, but Danny's right.
Scored like what 15 or some shit like that. Like
he put up
impressive.
Good.
It's Albert's point. It's Schmidt not wanting the player, even though he would have done him world of good.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Danny's 100% right. That's a very talented player. He proved he's a talented player, but he's not a player that Schmidt wanted or wanted in his system. And that's, like, for me, a great example of just everything that went wrong. It's like I said, it was just they never backed Schmidt enough to make it work, and they ended up in this weird 50-50 situation that was always doomed to fail. So I think that's why you're seeing now that kind of going back to large. I think that's Rui Costa and whoever else is involved in that decision making, saying we're not going to go down that route again. We're gonna try and do things the Benfica way.
Yeah.
And if I'm not mistaken, did last time not come in like at some point during the season and won the league right away? I'm not saying it's going to happen. Knock on wood, it doesn't.
His first season, you know what? His first season in charge was the year he took over for George Jesus, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
And he did win the league. They had like a crazy comeback post-COVID or whatever, if I remember.
Yeah. Was it not after Rui Vitoria?
No,
because I thought Bruno Lage brought in João Felix, and then George Jesus came after João Felix.
Oh, you know what? I'm mixing things up. I think you're right. Yeah, Bruno Lage was the coach. Had a crazy first year. They actually leapfrogged Porto for the title, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, no, I think you're right, as a matter of fact.
And listen, he was the guy who brought in Adel Taarabt, so...
Yeah.
Streets never forget.
Yeah. I think, although it's, where you guys are all right, we should have... or not we, holy fuck. They should have sacked Schmidt a long time ago, but I think it's better that they did it now than later on and been stubborn and stuck it with them. So
you
I'm
almost have to rip
about
the Band-Aid off in these cases, right?
Exactly, and I'm a little worried that they've sacked him so early. I mean, obviously, to be fair, also it could have been a loss to Moreirense. I think that Moreirense was unlucky to not get that goal counted in the 100%. First half.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think
the penalty decision as well is
a little dubious, but whatever.
Not even just to talk about that, you know what I mean? But I think that it's better that they did so now than before, and I think if anybody in Benfica is happy with this news of Lage coming in, it's Thiago Gouveia. And I personally am a big fan of Thiago Gouveia. I think he's a top talent. And I think with Lage there as well, he's going to get more and more minutes and more responsibility. And I mean, it's only good for him. I'm a little worried still about Benfica. I think it's 5 points from Sporting, but we're in September. So it's not even, I'm not
they
even.
They can make it up in 2 weeks, right?
Easily,
like it doesn't take long.
Easily. So,
yeah, the one thing I think about for Benfica at least, especially recently, is this guy says that Lage has the most non-win record at home. Like Danny said, I wouldn't even count out if they were like 20 points behind. I don't think you can ever count out Benfica and Porto in any title race. And I think maybe that's just the way.
20 points.
Yeah, all right, 20 points is a bit exaggeration.
A bit of exaggeration.
10 to 12 points, though. Like I think. And we have seen that in recent years. Yeah. Both of those clubs have made some crazy late season comebacks, and we've all seen some unbelievable collapses from both of them. But
they still have Porto and Sporting to play twice in the league.
Exactly.
Exactly.
And Benfica fans told me in the beginning of the season this Pavlidis guy is going to be better than Gyökeres. So I know Albert earlier you were talking about replacing Gonçalo Ramos. I mean, yeah, maybe they've done it now. Who knows? We'll see.
We'll see.
I do think as well. I just want to show this picture because
no.
Jean Mario has gone to Turkey. Are we about to see the best
Besiktas.
Turkish
There we
hairline of
go,
all
baby.
time?
I love it.
Oh my god.
I love it. He went from a legend to a meme in a matter of years. Love it.
Facts. One thing I do think about Bruno Lage as well, I do think Benfica have done a little damage control in the newspapers already. I don't know if you guys have seen an article. I think it was Abola who interviewed João Felix, Rafa.
They've interviewed a bunch of the
Another one.
ex-players.
And they were saying, like, if it was up to us, he would never leave.
Yeah, it's like, okay. No wonder João Felix says that because, brought him in. And then Rafa's like, oh, yeah, I would never leave. And it's just like, I don't think Benfica want to hear from these players at the moment. Like, Benfica fans don't really care what Rafa has to say or what João Felix has to say. So
they care about what Jean Rule has to say. Where's Jean Rule thinking about the Bruno Lage appointment? Someone get him on the phone.
Speaking of transfer rumours and transfer news, we do have some bits to cover for Sporting as well. Sporting did get Harder, the striker from Denmark. Abola ran this story today, which was basically a rundown of the transfer windows that United and Liverpool both went after Gonzalo Inacio. Bad bids rejected. They also rejected an offer from Juventus for Edwards. I don't know if that was before Jim Gonzalez or after. Jenny had a few inquiries, we believe, from Valencia and from Saudi, which were all rejected as well.
Mm-hmm.
Rodrigo Ribeiro apparently the alternate choice for Marcos Leonardo.
That one surprised me.
Al Hilal is playing Football Manager. There's no way they're not.
They're playing career mode, man. They're just signing anybody who's got like 84 plus potential.
I did figure out that so the Saudi registration rules, you don't have to, like, the foreign players that are under the age of 21, I think, don't count towards their foreign player policy. So I guess that does make a bit of sense.
Going after the younger guys, especially now, because they can't keep going out. They know they have a finite amount of slots for the old guys.
Exactly.
I didn't know that.
And Yundonis is being rejected 4 times. The offers from Panathinaikos as well, which ended up getting Harder as well. I don't think anyone has seen Harder play here. I could be wrong.
I haven't even seen a comp on him, so I'm not going to begin to talk about something I'm not knowledgeable about.
Let me say, though, really quick, shout out to GM, shout out to everybody else that posted on YouTube from the highlights. And I don't trust highlights because I just seen DeBast look like the best center back in the world playing in a Sporting shirt just recently. From GM, by the way. Naughty work from GM. From the highlights I've seen of Harder compared to Ioannidis, I know Harder only has 9 goals last season. I've liked Harder a bit more.
I think he definitely has more upside in terms of age and game time and sort of being molded to Amorim's ways.
It's also like 5 million less than what Panathinaikos was asking for by the end of that negotiation. So
it's still quite a big fee for someone who's not proven.
It's one of the
That's like our third most expensive, maybe.
This is the trend in world football, though, too. I mean, United paid I don't know how much for Højlund.
You do pay more nowadays. I think the last 5-10 years for potential.
Not even just for potential. I'm saying for like a powerful forward. Like, even if you have 9 goals to your name, I think Højlund had 8 in Atalanta. Mm-hmm. If you look like a guy that can bolster through and also with potential, of course, you're going for top dollars, especially at the striker spot because teams want guaranteed goals, and they look at these young guys eventually they'll become guaranteed goals.
They think that you may not be the finished article this year, but maybe in a year and a half, you'll be much closer to that if we just kind of help you along and give you some game time, right?
Is Harder our top signing?
I think he's the second one behind
Gyökeres is number 1.
Gyökeres, I think, is going to be number 1 for a bit.
I think he's second. Was the Bass 20 as well?
The Bass was up there as well.
The Bass would be up there.
I can't remember if he was 20 or maybe he's a bit lower.
Shout out to Banks for giving the loan.
Thank God.
I wish they could do that for me.
Facts.
No kidding. Jeez. In this economy?
With Brighton's interest, I don't know. But it seemed there was definitely traction on Brighton's point. But I think maybe it was something that maybe they've been looking at for a while. There was no bid, but the contact has been made. I don't know if
apparently it was also a work permit issue. So shout out Brexit.
Brexit means Brexit.
there was a few departures as well, which weren't covered. First of all, we got a loan move to Aves, and that is Rodrigo Ribeiro going there as well. I think a decent move for him. I don't know how much game time he's going to get there, but I assume a lot more than at Nottingham Forest last year as well. I think overall good move. And there's a few other loan moves as well. But before we get into the loans, there was quite a sad one, I thought, and that is Jovan Cabral leaving Sporting for 800,000. Like I said in this tweet, didn't have the ending he wanted, but I still think Jovan was a very good servant for us. I thought he would have become a bit better than he has been. Injuries and stuff will be a factor in that. But Danny, Jovan, what are your thoughts from leaving? Obviously, he wasn't registered or anything, so it was going to be on the way out. But what are your thoughts?
Conference League winner, by the way. Let's also mention that on Jovan. Jovan has an interesting resume so far.
I don't know if that actually. I can't remember if he was registered or not.
Well, all I know is he was on the team bus celebrating with Olympiacos. I've seen the story.
Rafael Camacho with the UCL medal in the box.
Yeah,
Camacho might be a UCL winner. So if Camacho's a UCL winner, my guy's definitely a Conference League winner.
Fair enough.
But I remember being on this podcast like a few years ago saying like, oh, there's no way he's not 15 million to Southampton next year or in a few months. This is George Men's written all over it. So for him to go, 107 games is still impressive, but for him to go to Estrela Amadora, link up with our other Sporting boys, I think Estrela Amadora deserved the Sporting B title. The same way Portimonense got the Portumonense sort of titles. I think, listen, if we beat Estrela Amadora 5-0, I'm not surprised. But it's sad to see him go, but he deserves to move on with his career, and he deserves minutes, and the main issue also is Jovan, and it'll be interesting to see the rest of the year. Maybe I'll add him up for my fantasy league now that I think of it, but it's going to be interesting to see how healthy he stays, because the injuries has played a huge part, right? But we'll see. Under the wings of Nani, maybe he can flourish into something and maybe sign to Nottingham Forest next year or in 2 years or something. Who knows?
Thanks. Jovan, Alan Ruiz, and Nani. That is a dangerous combination.
The pillars of football.
Porto hasn't played Estrela Amadora yet, right? That was Benfica, if I'm not mistaken.
Benfica played them at home, yeah.
Yeah, and Diogo Travassos has also gone on loan to Estrela as well.
Yeah.
Sporting bid, bro. I already told you guys.
But Richard, what are your thoughts on Jovan leaving?
I forgot about Jovan existing, honestly, which not his fault necessarily. Just kind of forgot about him. I will live and die on the hill that they should have capitalized on Bubble Jovan when they had the chance. And they should have sold him either immediately before the league title season when he had gone sicko mode, or even following the league titles winning season in 2021, and they would have got good money. I know hindsight, obviously, but they should have just taken the bag and run with it. I don't think they were. I think even at the time, I don't think you're going to get a much better deal for this type of player. A good player, a fun player on his day, but also a really frustrating player, and suffers from what a lot of Portuguese wingers suffer from, which is they like to be a little tricky on the wing, and then they run into a defender and lose the ball, and they don't track back. I wish him nothing but luck. He gave us some fun moments, some banger goals. We'll always have the Toss the Liga semi-final against Porto, the crazy comeback at the end. Best of luck to him. He was a good servant for the club, but just wasn't at Sporting's level anymore. But yeah, best of luck at Estrela. Estrela's got a kind of a fun team. They got kind of the Football Manager team this year, where they just kind of taken all the free agents and kind of who's the old guys we can sign that have some name value, and they'll be kind of cheap. So I'll be watching them just because they're kind of a cool team to look out for. But yeah, best of luck to Jovan. Thanks for the memories.
Yeah, thanks. Albert, do you have anything to add on Jovan Cabral?
Yeah, just that I was actually quite surprised by the move when I saw it, if I'm honest. Actually, still slightly surprised at the low fee and with all due respect to Estrela, the level of club that he moved to. I haven't followed his career super closely, but I know like Danny says, he was signed by clubs like Olympiacos, and did he play in Italy? Was it Salernitana?
He played
First
yeah,
for
he
Lazio
played,
as well.
and then,
So the guy's he's played a lot of games at a decent level. It did feel like a slightly abrupt move downwards. I thought maybe he would have one more move on that kind of level. Maybe if it was just to go to like Greece or Turkey or something like that.
Yeah.
So I was slightly surprised. But I think that, the injuries are killer, right? And I think he's just struggled so much to find anywhere that he can play consistent football, and he's probably really low on confidence as a player just from everything that's happened to him and not really making any impact over the last few seasons. So maybe this is a good move for him, like staying in Portugal, in Lisbon, and playing in the Premier League and maybe it could work well with him, and Nani being there as a mentor is a good thing. So yeah, I completely agree with you. I hope it goes well for him, because no reason to dislike the guy at all. He seems like a good guy, and he's a good player. So yeah, hopefully this is a smart move. I think it could be.
Yeah.
kind of the Jeremiah St. Juice before St. Juice, because every time like he was like getting healthy and he's playing well, Javon's doing well, and then he'd always get hurt. So kind of that type of player. Like when you brought up the injuries, that was my first thought. I was like, oh man, we've had this conversation about St. Juice before. So, but yeah, I wish him nothing but the best. He's a fun player when he's healthy. So good luck. It is a bit of, like you mentioned, Albert, it was a bit of an abrupt move and kind of a step down or step back a little, but maybe that's what he needs too.
Yeah, I will say that is Estrella Amador's second highest signing of all time, 800k.
Who's the
First
highest?
being Igor Jesus from Flamengo this season, 2 million. I didn't know they had money like that, but fair enough.
Estrella's got Patrice Evra money now, so they can afford to throw some stuff around.
Yeah, true.
I think. They
That's
got
true.
some interesting stuff going on with their sod.
Yeah, there was a few other low moves. I think there was just two more. Dario Sugo was loaned to Las Palmas with no option to buy, which I think is a good move for him as well. And João Muniz was also loaned to Rio Ave in the first division, so that's a good move as well. Yeah. Hopefully they'll play pretty well and get some game time to kick on.
Las Palmas signed some other Portuguese boys, or like Portuguese league guys
in the last couple years.
I'm saying this. They signed somebody else. I can't remember who though.
The striker from Wolves, who they signed from Porto for 35
Fabio
million
Silva.
when he was 18. Fabio Silva.
Right.
Man, what happened to him? Forgot about Fabio Silva. They had such high hopes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just looking for their T1 transfer market.
That was George Men's like masterclass transfer.
Adnan Januzaj, Ollie McBurney. I forgot he was there.
Crazy.
Wow.
Man. But anyway, speaking of nationals, let's go on to our final bit for this podcast, which is the national team call-up. Of course, we mentioned it earlier. A few sporting players in there, which are Gonzalo Inacio. You have Giovanni Kenda as well. You have, where am I looking at now? Trincao and Pedro Gonzalez as well. A very random one, Renato Vega. From someone who was in
weird.
Sporting B team less than 2 years ago. Now starting for Chelsea in some games and being in the national team. I mean,
I feel like every call-up, there's always one or two names that just really catch us all off guard for whatever
I think this
reason.
Has got I mean, Totti Gomez for me is like the weird one, but I think this might be weirder than Totti Gomez. But
yeah, I would say so.
Actually, Vega might already have more minutes at Chelsea than Totti Gomes had at Wolves. He was like off the bench for Wolves most games, bro. It was insane.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie, I did go to watch Chelsea at Stamford Bridge the other day in their qualifying game against
Servette or whatever. Yeah,
and he was the best player on the pitch. Like no way, he was so good. He was very good. So fair play to him. Very versatile. I think he played like left back, centre back, holding midfielder. So
there's a couple names like Thiago Sanch is a bit of a surprising name on this list. No Rui Patricio, Rui Silva gets the honor of being, I guess, the third string goalie. Punch in the air because Ruben Neves is on this team, but you win some, you lose some.
Punch in the air, Ronaldo's in this team as well.
Punch in the air, Ronaldo's in it. Well, we'll talk about him in a minute, probably with his weird press conference, but not too different of a team from the Euro, save for obviously a few different ones. I think the only objections I had was kind of Renato Viega and Ruben Neves for my obvious agendas on him. And like Ronaldo, I'm fine with him on the team, so don't start him. He's not a starter. That's my only beef with I think most of this call up. The rest of this is kind of standard. Obviously, we have 4 Sporting guys, which is the most we've had in a long time, which was very nice to see. So hopefully they get some minutes. Hopefully they play well. Hopefully they maybe score some goals. Who the heck knows?
Yeah, I'm looking at this team, and I agree. I think it's a very decent selection overall. I was very surprised, but in a good way, to see Thiago Santos called up as well. I thought he's been a very good player for the last few years as well. You mentioned Ruben Neves. I really don't want guys from Saudi to play in the team, and I think Ronald Koeman, as much as he's not a great manager, I think he summed it up pretty well with Steven Bergwijn's move to Saudi, showing no ambition. And I mean, I get why they go in there for the money, of course.
I'll never fault a guy for, like, we got to think about it this way. They're being offered life-changing amounts of money. It's really hard to say no. Like, put yourself in their shoes. Are you going to be content making $6 or $7 million a season where you're at, or making $70 million or whatever the crazy fee is, right? Like, that is life-changing money that you were asking these players to turn down.
Of course, no. But I just think the level of football, no respect to the Saudi League, of course, that's what they're trying to do, is improve it. But the level of football is not that of a competitive level as, players in the Prem, as players in, League Bundesliga. I'll throw Liga Portugal in there as well. But I don't know. I just don't respect it that much. I understand why, obviously, of course, Ronaldo's there. But then, like, Ruben Neves, I don't know, man. He was the most disappointing one for me in terms of moving to Saudi, because I think it was linked to Barcelona, was linked to Arsenal, was linked to all these good teams, and he just chose the bag. Like Richard said, don't fault it, but there is ambition that you can have, and like players like Ronaldo coming to the end of their career, and like N'Golo Kante, Benzema getting that one last sort of paycheck is like, okay, you're at the end of your career, take it. But like when you at the level,
Ronaldo's
of,
not. If you ask Ronaldo, he's not at the end of his career. He thinks he's going for like a long time.
Yeah, also true. But when you look at guys,
he's at the start of his YouTube career as well.
Yeah, man.
Facts.
We're always beefing Messi. Now he's beefing Mr. Beast. What the hell,
what? Bro? You guys are gonna laugh at me. I haven't watched it yet, but I seen a thumbnail that was like he's about to ask Georgina 7 spicy questions. I am watching that right after we're done this. I hope you guys know.
I did actually watch one of them with Rio Ferdinand. It was actually
I like that one. I watched it too. It was good.
Well, you watched one more.
Bro wants 1,000 goals. I don't know if he's gonna get there, but okay.
I didn't like his answer of why he cried at the Euros. He's like, I wasn't crying because I let my country down, just because I'm
crying because I let myself down.
Okay.
Like, bro, you should have gone with the first answer. We would have been like, okay, cool. You dug yourself a hole you didn't need to.
Yeah. And it's also funny, like Rio Ferdinand, he's like his biggest hype man as well. He's just agreeing with absolutely everything he says. He's like, man, I understand that. I'm like, okay, whatever. Albert, when you look at this selection, what are your overall thoughts?
I quite like it. I mean, I've been quite pleased with what Roberto Martinez has done in terms of call-ups in general. Although he does confuse me a bit because like he does stuff like call up Thiago Santos and Giovanni Kenda. Like I respect those calls a lot. Those are good calls for young players and inexperienced players. But then certain names that are still in the team that you're looking at and thinking like, why are these guys still getting called up? So it's a bit confusing, but. Yeah, listen, I like it, and I like Pedro Gonçalves being in there. For me, that's just I try not to get too hung up on like national team call-ups because you can make arguments for so many players. Pedro Gonçalves was the one for me where I just found it really hard to understand why he wasn't getting called up, especially when other players from the same league who hadn't performed as well as he had were getting called up. So you can't even use the excuse of the league that he's playing in or stuff like that. That was the one for me that I never really understood. So. The fact that he's in, I hope he just gets an opportunity to play and get on the pitch and stuff like that. But I mean, listen, I really, I don't know if everybody knows, I'm not a Portugal national team fan. I'm an England national team fan. But this Portugal national team is like, it's crazy. I love so many of the players are so good. Like there's so much quality in the team, and I mean, you look at that selection right there, you think it's not bad. There's like a lot of good players in there, and this is even with some of the more kind of alternative calls, shall we say? So yeah, it's great stuff, to be honest.
I'm also not a Portuguese national team fan either.
Okay,
I'm a Canadian national team
Nice.
fan more than anything.
nice.
Yeah. Danny, what were your thoughts on this?
I think the Canadian national team has some great. Bro, I honestly, I quite don't care, because when it comes to the big turn, I know everybody's applauding. We have Trincão, we have Porto, etc., etc. This is from a Sporting perspective, at least. Everyone's applauding that he finally got the call up, but I think in some of these it's too little, too late. I don't really care. Like even Thiago Santos, I think it's a great call up. But then why is Nelson Smith also there? Like Nelson Smith is going to get more minutes than Thiago Santos.
Yeah.
So what's the point? Also, there's only really 3 center backs. I wonder if he's going to play Vega as center back. That's going to be a
Yeah, he
little
didn't even
wild.
call up Danilo to jam him into center back as he usually does, which kind of
Yeah.
caught me off guard.
Yeah. But it's also the Nations Cup. So like we were saying, these are just glorified friendlies anyway. So I don't really care. It's nice to see Kenda there. It's nice to have Kenda interacting with Ronaldo, for example, and all that stuff. It's good to have this Sporting representation. I see a lot of Sporting faces in there. It's great to not see Rui Patricio in there, as a avid Rui Patricio hater, but who cares? Who cares?
Yeah, I'm with you on the Rui Patricio hate train, definitely.
And he just signed for Atalanta also. Did you guys know that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw.
Crazy.
Unfortunately.
Man's going to be a backup.
One thing I was upset about is I thought Quaresma should have got in there, man. I think maybe, I don't know who, maybe Renato Vega, but I feel like he was doing well. I feel like he should have been called. Antonio Silva as well. He only started, I think, his first game last game week or something like that.
Last week.
He was off the bench a few times. So I don't know, like, Roberto Martinez comes up and always says, yeah, I want players that are playing and all that stuff. And then he's like,
But then he does stuff like calls up Pedro Neto at the last Euros, though. Like, that's...
And João Felix
he contradicts
now.
himself a lot. Like,
Yeah, I just don't get it. But I will show you a stat I heard today. And that was when Giovanni Kenda was... So he's so young that when Portugal won the Euros, he was 9 years old in 2016.
Oh my God.
He's...
How old was I in 20? I just turned 19.
Is he 2007 or some shit?
He's
How old is he?
2007, correct.
That's
Yeah,
crazy. I'm getting old.
I had just turned 19 before that Euros. I feel so fucking old. Oh my God.
Also, really quick on the call-up thing, you mentioned Quaresma. Again, I know we talked about Benfica already. I promise not to bring them up after this. But even Thiago Araujo maybe could have even gotten a call-up.
Yeah,
You know?
nice.
You can play
I don't
all
think
the-
Antonio Silva should be there. And to be fair, I don't think Renato Vega should be there either. But no.
Hot take, I don't think Bernardo Silva should be there. Fuck that guy, man.
Oh, man. But yeah, Giovanni was a strange one because there was this talk for so long that he doesn't call up Sporting players, and Pedro Gonçalves and Trincão waiting for
That
ages.
one, the Kenda one came more out of the blue than I think the Pot and Trincão ones, for sure.
Because if you actually kept up with the news, the big headline for Sporting was that Eduardo Quaresma was selected to the pre-call-ups. There was nothing about Giovanni, and if that was the case, I feel like Giovanni's name would be everywhere. And then just randomly, Giovanni's called up.
Yeah.
I mean, Paulinho is killing it out of Mexico. If you could do well in Saudi, man, I think you can get in
I'm
the
not gonna
team.
lie, Sam. I thought we were getting past it now that he's moved out of
Or
sport.
never.
Sam's got
As long
But
as
low-key, I'm
players,
still with the Thiago Tomás agenda, so you can continue on with the following. That's fine. That's fine.
as long as players from Saudi get in this team, why not
That's
a guy from
facts.
Mexico?
That's
Why
fine.
not?
Mexican League's good,
Also,
by the way. Just letting y'all know.
Wasn't that long ago that France, in fact, if I'm not mistaken, France won a World Cup with Gamero in it, who was playing for
Gignac from
Gignac from
Gignac,
played
that's
for
it,
Tigres. He
not
played for
Gamero,
Tigres.
Gignac.
Yeah, Gignac was on that Euro 2016 team too. I remember him playing in
And
the
he
final.
played for America, was it? I believe.
Tigres.
Tigres. Thank you, Rich. You're right.
I remember Stussy. I remember so much useless information.
No. I knew it was yellow. I was just forgetting the wrong yellow team in Mexico.
It's all good.
But yeah, I think that is. I've got one more thing to point out, and it was something that Chris actually put in our group chat regarding some piece of news that came out, I think, yesterday. Actually, I got two more things. I lied.
I've lost. I don't even remember what Chris put in the chat, so it's gonna come as news to me.
So another broken record apparently for
Oh,
sporting
okay, now I remember. Yes.
of a shirt sale. This time the training shirt. To be fair, I'll just put this out there.
yeah.
I actually don't mind the training shirt.
It looks
I
like a
like that one.
Minecraft creeper.
That is it. That is what it reminds
You
me.
ruined it for me, bro.
I'm sorry, but it
I'm
does.
kidding.
But I think it was ESPN put it on like the worst training kit or one of the worst training kits. They said it looks like a video game that's like unpixelated, like
I
back
didn't
in the
expect
day.
ESPN to be haters. Wow.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's another record sellout, but not a
We
single
don't know.
metric, not a single number to back this up. I'm not saying they're lying, but like it would be nice to have some metrics to back up this claim because I'm sure they're easy to find these days. But yeah, other than that, the last piece of news that I wanted to point out was one that happened only 4 hours ago, and that is the retirement of Miguel Veloso. One of the players that I grew up watching, and you know that hairstyle I always wanted to recreate, the one on the left there. Didn't have the hair for it, unfortunately. But yeah, he's one of the players that I think when you think of the streets don't forget tag, I do think what could have happened if he picked something else instead of going to Genoa, then Ukraine. I think he could have been a decent level Premier League player if that's the route he chose to go down. It's a bit of a shame the route he did go down, but I'm sure he made enough money from it. Danny, what were your thoughts on that?
We forced them out too to Genoa, to be fair, because we were like in dire need of the cash at the time.
We had
I'm with
zero funds.
Yeah, and he was I mean, of course, maybe his club career wasn't as like decorated, but he's had great stints in Italy, even in his later age. Hellas Verona, and who was before that? He was even bigger legend there. But yeah, and then of course his Slessound career was I don't know how many. I can tell you now.
He represented us at 2 World Cups and 2 European Championships. If I remember correctly,
he has a good number of caps in his belt right now. He has 56 caps to his name. Yeah. Not bad at all. So shout out Miguel Veloso. I'm with you too. He was one of my favorite players growing up too. He embodied Sporting at the time, in our worst moments, and at the time he was there for some good moments as well. So his dad's a Benfica legend. I think it's safe to say he's a Sporting legend. So
do you know the story about? I heard the story about when he signed with Sporting, Danny.
I have, but remind the group.
We're gonna remind the folks at home because he actually, because his dad, obviously legend, played for Benfica for many years, played for Beta Mar as well at one point.
He has, yeah.
Just because we're Beta Mar guys. But yeah, he actually went on trial to Benfica Academy at like obviously a super young age, and they basically said no. They told him go get out, and he immediately went to Sporting, and kind of the rest is history. And he embodied Sporting like few other players. Yeah, I loved him growing up. He was one of my favorite players. He was a guy who I was really sad when he went. I agree with Sam. Like I would have loved to see if Sporting wasn't in such a shambles, like what he could have done for us, or just what he could have done maybe at another bigger club instead of like a Genoa. No disrespect to Genoa, but they were not a big club at the time, nor are they really a big club now. So, but he's had a good career, a lot more successful than most players get to say. Got to represent the Seleção on many occasions, 2 Euros and 2 World Cups. Wishing him nothing but the best in retirement. He's a cool guy. Seems like a nice dude. So best of luck and happy trails.
Yeah, there's that quote about Graham Souness where it's like, no one wanted to be Graham Souness. Like, I wanted to be this guy. When I was younger, I wanted to be like Miguel Veloso. He was actually like so good. Watching him play was just fantastic. That's why it's like I'm disappointed it went so bad. Not badly, because he still had a very good career. But like watching him play, you'd think he could fit in anywhere. And I'm just a bit ashamed for that. Albert, I don't know if you were around for that time of Portuguese football. Do you have any fond memories or any memories of Miguel Veloso at all?
Well, actually, just listening to you guys speak, I'm thinking I don't really remember him that well, because at that time I only really saw him for the national team, and I think maybe even for Dynamo Kiev in like the Champions League or something like that. And
sure.
So to be totally honest, I never really like paid much attention to him, but like it's really cool to hear you guys speak about him in that way, because it sounds like he at one point was a really really top player, and especially for Sporting, which is pretty cool. So I've got a newfound respect for him, which is
And we didn't have a lot of top players in that era. They're few and far between from about 2005 to 2015. So the ones that were good, we remember them very well.
The ones that were good and the ones that didn't join rivals.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ones who didn't snake us.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of he was a good footballer and he sort of had the look of a footballer at that time as well.
He looked like the
Yeah.
typical. He is the most 2010s looking footballer, like late 2010s footballer you see. Like that
Yeah.
hairstyle alone is such a
Low key, now that we're
2011
talking about his
style.
look, he looked like he should have played for England. You know what I mean? He kind of looks English. He looks like Jack Grealish. You know,
He's Jack
like,
Grealish
he gives
before
that
Jack
vibe.
Grealish.
Yeah.
Facts. Just to look at some stats to him as well. He played his most games still for Sporting, 159. 13 goals, 16 assists from holding midfielder position, 12,000 minutes, and you can see the rest there. But yeah, I didn't actually think he played I know he played a lot for Sporting. I thought maybe he'd ellipse it with Genoa, but fair enough.
He was in
159
Genoa
games.
for a while too, so I thought maybe. But
Yeah.
But he also had like European football with Sporting for like 3, 4, 5 years, however long he played Champions League a couple years, played Europa League, UEFA Cup for a couple years, like so those would add up where he didn't really have that with Genoa.
Yeah,
Fair.
and I did think he was going to be one of the players to eventually return, like Joao Pereira's situation. I'm a bit sad it didn't happen, but he's going down the coaching route, which is fair enough, as a lot of players do. But I think that is it for today, unless you guys have anything else.
let me
you
just
wanna
mention one quick thing: the women with a big win against Benfica. I believe it
Facts.
was this weekend, and then today, right?
Today.
They won today.
just
They
beat
had
Frankfurt.
Champions League today.
They just
Yeah, they
beat
won
Frankfurt 2-0, and Frankfurt, who I'm not too big on the women's game, but Frankfurt, who won the Champions League before, the female at least have won the Champions League before, so beating them for the playoffs to get to the
main round.
get to the proper is pretty impressive. So shout out the ladies; they're on fire recently. So
Yeah, facts. But that is going to be the end of this episode. First of all, Albert, thank you very much for your time today. If you are unfamiliar with him, now you are not, but make sure you follow him on Longball Football. But if you want to follow him, his personal account there as well. Albert, before we go, what were your thoughts on today's episode?
Oh man, you guys know I love coming on the show. I love what you guys do. If I'm not on the show as a guest, I'm watching on YouTube. So like, I always love coming on, and you guys do like such an amazing show about sport and the national team and the whole league, to be honest. So yeah, I always love coming on. It's always a pleasure.
Appreciate the kind words.
Love
I was
having
definitely
you.
fishing for a compliment there, so you delivered. So.
We love having you on. We
for
love
real,
what
that's
you
why I
guys do.
laughed there for a second.
we love what you guys do over at Long Ball. You guys always
course.
have a great
Appreciate
show. You do a really good job just covering all of the league. And if you haven't checked out Long Ball's Twitter, do, because they just released some really nice kits that you can buy, made by
yeah.
Lakatoni.
Fire.
Facts.
So just check those out if you have time.
I would have it on now, but it's in the wash.
That's all good.
Fair enough.
Unfortunately, Chris couldn't join us today, but make sure you follow Chris as well. You can follow Danny there. You can follow myself there. Danny, go on.
Really quick, I was just gonna say one that's perfect advertisement. The jersey could be washed in the washing machine and dried, so perfect advertisement.
Yeah.
Second, follow me right there because I am the champion of long ball football fantasy football league currently. I'm gonna use
Danny,
going
you're
strong.
getting blocked.
You're
You're getting kicked.
They're gonna
I'm afraid.
boot you out of the
Strong,
league now
baby.
for that for that behavior.
You can follow myself there. You can follow Richard down there as well. But most importantly, make sure you follow all things Alvalade on all social media and podcast platforms. I don't know if we're going to do a show next week. Maybe we will, but keep an eye on our Twitter for
International
that.
break, so we'll see. We'll see how we feel.
Yeah. Keep an eye on our Twitter for that. Other than that, thank you very much for watching. See you next time, and peace.